Marcus Chen, billionaire CEO of TechVault, faces a colossal crisis, critical failures in his security system. While millionaire engineers fail, Luna Vega, a food delivery driver and IT student, overhears a technical discussion in Marcus's office. Tentatively, she suggests a simple solution. The engineers laugh, and Marcus rudely dismisses her. Deliver food and leave the tech to the pros. What he didn't know was that the humble delivery driver held the key to saving his company, and his attitude would change everything. But before we reveal what happens, if you also love stories like this, click to subscribe now and help us bring more tales of courage and loyalty. Thank you. And now, let's see what happened. Luna Vega adjusted the insulated backpack on her shoulders for the 10th time that night, feeling the weight of the still warm takeout containers against her ribs. Her phone read 11:47 p.m. when she parked her scooter in front of the mirrored building of TechVault Solutions in the heart of Silicon Valley. 45 stories of glass and steel towered before her like a golden wall, reflecting the lights of the city that never sleeps. Delivery to the 45th floor, she muttered to herself, double-checking the address on the app. It was her 8th order of the night, and she still had at least 4 more hours to go before she could rest. Luna sighed, thinking about the stack of computer science textbooks waiting for her at home on the makeshift desk made of milk crates that she and her mum, Esperanza, had found at the farmer's market. At 27, Luna had built a routine that defied the limits of time and human endurance. She woke up at 5 in the morning to help her mom with the alterations Esperanza did for a clothing factory in the garment district, work that supplemented the family income since they lost her dad 3 years ago. At 7, Luna headed to night classes for computer science at San Jose State University, where she had secured a partial scholarship after years of saving every penny. During the day, between classes, she worked as a delivery driver for the Food Express app, zipping around town on her red Honda scooter, which she had bought used with the money from selling the only valuable possession the family owned: her dad's handmade guitar. The night doorman at TechVault, a tired middle-aged man, waved with familiarity. Luna had made deliveries there before, always to teams working late into the night. "Another tough night up there?" he asked, pressing the elevator button. "From what I hear on the delivery driver's WhatsApp, those guys haven't left in weeks," Luna replied, stepping into the gleaming elevator. "Must be some important project." As she ascended through the floors, Luna couldn't help but think about the irony of the situation. Here she was, bringing food to some of the best programmers in the country, people who earned in a month what she and her mom made together in a year. Still, she didn't feel envious. She felt something different, a burning curiosity about their world, a desire to understand the problems that kept them awake night after night. Since she was a child, Luna had always had a different mind. While other kids played in the schoolyard of her public school in East San Jose, she enjoyed taking apart broken electronics she found in the trash, trying to understand how they worked. Her father, Roberto, a talented carpenter who had emigrated from Guadalajara when he was young, always encouraged her. "Mija, your mind is your greatest wealth," he used to say, "more valuable than any gold." It was Roberto who taught her that complex problems often had simple solutions and that you had to look beyond the obvious. This lesson was etched in Luna's memory, especially after her father's sudden departure due to a heart attack at work. The family was not only emotionally devastated, but also in a desperate financial situation. Esperanza, who had left her studies to marry and take care of the family, quickly had to learn to sew to support the household. Luna, who was in her senior year of high school, took on multiple jobs, cleaning offices in the morning, babysitting in the afternoon, and studying at night. Even so, she never gave up on her dream of going to college. The elevator stopped on the 45th floor with a soft ding. The doors opened, revealing an environment that contrasted drastically with anything Luna knew. The office was a futuristic expanse of glass, metal, and LED lights, where dozens of monitors flickered like stars in a digital constellation. Young engineers, mostly men wearing expensive t-shirts and designer sneakers, were scattered around modern sofas and ergonomic workstations. The smell of expensive coffee mingled with the aroma of stress and sleepless nights. "Food express delivery," Luna announced, holding up the insulated bags. A blond guy with designer glasses approached, looking exhausted. "Finally, we're starving here." He took the bags without even properly looking at Luna, already turning his attention back to his colleagues. "Guys, the food's here." Luna should have left at that moment. That's what she always did. Deliver, receive the tip on the app, and move on to the next order. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the palpable tension in the air, or the urgent whispers coming from a group gathered around a table full of code projected onto a giant screen. Or maybe it was simply the curious girl she had always been, the one who took apart devices to understand how they worked. "We tried the microservices approach, but the latency is killing everything," said a frustrated voice. "What if we implement a distributed cache?" suggested another. "We've already tested that. The problem is deeper." Luna found herself walking slowly toward the group, pretending to organize her empty backpack while listening to the conversation. On the screen, she could see lines and lines of code, system architecture diagrams, and performance graphs that clearly showed where the bottleneck was. It was as if a part of her brain had awakened. Those problems, however complex they seemed, reminded her of the electronic puzzles she solved as a child. The same logic, the same need to find the point where everything was stalling. Luna bit her lower lip, an old habit when she was thinking intensely. Her mom always said she got a computer face in those moments. And at that instant, watching that team of tech geniuses struggling with a problem that seemed insurmountable, Luna Vega felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time, the spark of discovery beginning to glow in her mind. "The problem isn't in the complex code," Luna heard her own voice echo in the tense silence of the office before she even realized she had spoken. All heads turned in her direction. The group of engineers stared at her with a mixture of surprise and irritation, as if a piece of furniture had started talking. Luna felt the blood rush to her face, but something stronger than embarrassment prevented her from backing down. "Excuse me," said the blond guy, raising an eyebrow. "Are you with housekeeping?" I'm a delivery driver," Luna stammered, pointing to her insulated backpack. "But I study computer science and—" "Oh, look," interrupted a woman with short hair and designer glasses. "Now even pizza delivery girls are experts in systems architecture." The laughter that followed was like a stab in the back. Luna felt the urge to run away, to go back to her scooter and forget this ever happened. But then she remembered her father's words. The most difficult problems sometimes have the simplest solutions. "Mija, you just need the courage to see them. You're focusing on the latency of the microservices," Luna continued, her voice trembling but determined. "But the real bottleneck is in the protocol communication. Look there," she pointed to the screen. "HTTP2 trying to talk to WebSocket in real time. It's like trying to use a landline to make a video call." The silence that followed was different. Some engineers exchanged glances. Others frowned, looking at the code. Luna saw a spark of interest in the eyes of at least three of them. It was then that she saw him. Marcus Chen was leaning against the glass wall that separated a meeting room from the main office, observing the scene with an unreadable expression. At 32, he had that air of someone carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, but his dark eyes were piercing, intelligent. He wore a wrinkled dress shirt and his hair was disheveled, clear signs that he hadn't slept in days either. Luna recognized him immediately from the articles in Forbes magazine that she read at the public library. Marcus Chen, the tech prodigy who had built $1 billion empire from a college dorm. Son of Taiwanese immigrants, he was a legend in Silicon Valley, and he was looking directly at her. "Who is this delivery girl?" Marcus muttered to himself, pushing open the glass door. His movement made everyone in the office straighten up instinctively. It was evident the respect, or maybe fear, that he inspired in his team. Marcus walked to the group, his eyes alternating between Luna and the code on the screen. "Explain this protocol story," he said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion, but with undeniable authority. Luna swallowed hard. She was face to face with one of the most powerful men in the country, a billionaire who decided the fate of thousands of people with a simple gesture. And he wanted to hear her opinion on a problem that the best engineers in the country couldn't solve. It's like trying to get two people to talk, but one speaks English and the other speaks Mandarin," Luna began, the words coming out more confidently now. "You've created very sophisticated translators, but you've forgotten that sometimes it's simpler for both people to learn a third language in common." Marcus moved closer, studying her face. "Go on. If you implement a simple intermediary protocol, like a basic message broker using gRPC, you eliminate the need for all these complex conversions. The system will run smoothly because the parts will be speaking the same language." The office fell into absolute silence. Luna could hear her own heart beating like a drum. Several engineers were now typing furiously on their laptops, testing the idea. That actually makes sense," murmured one of them. "Why the hell didn't we think of that before?" said another. Marcus continued to stare at Luna, but there was something different in his expression now. It was no longer casual curiosity. It was genuine interest, perhaps even admiration. "What's your name?" he asked. Luna Vega." "You work where, Luna Vega?" I deliver food, and I study at night at San Jose State." Luna felt herself shrinking before him. "Sorry for intruding. I shouldn't have—" "No," Marcus interrupted, raising his hand. "Don't apologize. In 3 minutes, you identified something that 30 of the best engineers in the country haven't seen in 3 months." He turned to the team. "Implement this solution. Now." "But Marcus," protested the blonde guy, She's just a what, Carlos?" Marcus's voice had a dangerous tone. "A person who just saved our company from a $15 billion loss? A person who solved in minutes what you couldn't solve in weeks?" Luna watched the scene as if she were watching a movie. This couldn't be happening. She was Luna Vega from East San Jose, daughter of a carpenter and a seamstress who woke up at 5 in the morning to help pay the bills. She wasn't the type of person who solved billion-dollar problems. Marcus turned to her again. "Do you have any other suggestions?" For a moment, Luna hesitated, but then she looked at the screen again and saw other opportunities for optimization, small adjustments that could make a huge difference. "Well, if you also index the cache by geolocation and implement a machine learning-based prediction system to anticipate the most frequent queries." This time, no one laughed. Everyone was paying attention, some taking notes. Marcus smiled for the first time since Luna had arrived, a small but genuine smile. "Luna Vega," he said, "I think you and I need to talk." 3 days had passed since that night on the 45th floor of Tech Vault, and Luna still felt like she was living a strange dream. Marcus Chen's business card was kept in the drawer of her dresser, next to the overdue bills and the programming notebooks she wrote by hand to save on printing paper. "Are you sure it wasn't a prank, Mija?" Esperanza asked for the 10th time, while ironing a pile of blouses that needed to be delivered to the factory by the end of the afternoon. "Rich man doesn't give his card to a delivery girl like that out of nowhere." Luna sighed, adjusting the insulated backpack on her shoulders. It was Thursday, 2:30 p.m., and she had 4 deliveries to make before going to college. The routine continued the same, but something inside her had changed irreversibly. It was as if a door she didn't even know existed had opened, revealing a world of possibilities that always seemed unattainable. "He said to call today," Luna murmured, checking her cell phone for the 20th time. "Said he wanted to talk about a proposal. And are you going to call?" That was the question Luna had been avoiding answering, even to herself. Part of her was terrified. Marcus Chen lived in a completely different universe from hers, a world of private jets, billion-dollar meetings, and decisions that affected millions of people. What could a delivery driver from East San Jose offer someone like that? But another part of Luna, the same one who took apart electronic devices as a child, was burning with curiosity. For the first time in years, she had felt truly seen, valued for what her mind could do, not just for her ability to work 16 hours a day. At 4:45 p.m., after delivering a late lunch to a law office downtown, Luna finally mustered the courage. She parked her scooter at a gas station and dialed the number that was etched in her memory. Marcus Chen. His voice was exactly as she remembered it. Direct, no nonsense. "Hi, it's Luna Vega, from the delivery the other night." "Luna." There was a smile in his voice now. "I was expecting your call. Can you come here today? I have a proposal for you." Luna's heart leapt. I'm working now. I can only after classes around 11 p.m. "Perfect, I'll be here. And Luna, bring your resume." "Resume?" Luna almost laughed. Her resume would fit on half a sheet of paper: high school diploma, technical course in IT at a community college, which she had taken on Saturdays for 2 years, and experience in various jobs to support her studies. Not exactly the profile you'd expect to find in the offices of TechVault. At 11:15 p.m., Luna was again in the mirrored elevator, but this time the feeling was completely different. There were no insulated bags, no rush. Just a manila envelope with her makeshift resume and a heart that was beating so hard she was sure Marcus could hear it. The 45th floor was quieter now. Only a few people were working at their stations, and Marcus was waiting for her in his private office, an impressive space with a panoramic view of Silicon Valley, glass walls, and furniture that cost more than her family's annual income. "Sit down," he said, pointing to a leather armchair that was more comfortable than any piece of furniture Luna had ever used. "First of all, I need to tell you something. We tested your suggestions." Luna held her breath. The implementation worked perfectly. The system ran flawlessly for 72 hours straight. We saved not only the $15 billion in potential losses, but also reduced operating costs by 40%. In 3 days, your ideas generated an impact of nearly $20 billion for the company. The words didn't make sense in Luna's head. 20 billion. It was such an astronomical number that it seemed abstract, unreal. "I don't understand," she said, her voice coming out weaker than she intended. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Because I want to offer you a job. Senior technical consultant, starting salary of $40,000 per month, plus profit sharing. You would work directly with me on strategic projects." Luna felt the world spin. $40,000 in 1 month. It was more than she and her mom earned together in a whole year. This can't be real," she murmured. "It's real, but there's a condition, of course. There had to be a catch. You need to drop out of college and quit your delivery job. You need to dedicate yourself fully to TechVault, and..." Marcus hesitated for the first time. "And you need to move. We'll provide an apartment for you in Palo Alto, near here." Luna felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Drop out of college, the dream she had fought for years, for which she woke up at 5 in the morning every day, and move, leave her mother alone. "I can't," she said immediately. "My mother, she needs me." "And college, Luna," Marcus interrupted gently. "You have an extraordinary talent, a gift that can revolutionize American technology. But to develop it fully, you need an environment that allows your growth. And my family? We can discuss a monthly allowance for your mother. She wouldn't have to work anymore." It was everything Luna had ever dreamed of, but presented in a way that made her feel torn in half. On one side was financial security, the opportunity to use her mind in ways she never imagined possible. On the other was everything she knew: her mother, her routine, her dream of graduating and proving that a girl from East San Jose could achieve anything. "Can I think about it?" she asked. Marcus smiled. Of course, but don't take too long. The tech world doesn't wait for anyone. When Luna left the Tech Vault building that night, she knew that her life had reached an irreversible crossroads. For the first time in years, she had a real choice to make. A choice that would define not only her future, but also who she would become. Luna spent the entire night awake, sitting at the small desk made of milk crates in the room she shared with her mother. Marcus's card was in front of her, next to a cup of cold coffee that she had forgotten to drink. $40,000 a month. The words echoed in her mind like an impossible mantra. When the sun rose, she had made her decision. "Mom, I need to tell you something," Luna said as she helped Esperanza fold the clothes that would be delivered to the factory. Esperanza stopped what she was doing when Luna finished explaining the proposal, her eyes filled with tears. Not of sadness, but of a deep and complicated pride. "Mija, you've always been special. Since you were a little girl, your head worked differently," she said, holding her daughter's hands. "Your father would be so proud, but I don't want to leave you alone." "And who said you're going to leave me alone? You'll visit me always, and I'll be fine. This is your chance, Luna. The chance that your father and I never had." 2 hours later, Luna called Marcus and accepted the proposal. The transition was faster than she imagined possible. In 1 week, she was officially hired by Tech Vault Solutions. In 2 weeks, she had moved into an apartment in Palo Alto that was bigger than the entire house where she grew up. It had 2 bedrooms, a modern kitchen with appliances she had only seen in TV commercials, and a view of the Stanford campus that took her breath away every morning. But it was on the 3rd day of work that Luna realized that she had completely underestimated the size of the challenge that awaited her. "Luna, this is the core development team," Marcus said, introducing her to a group of 15 people in the main meeting room. "They will be working directly with you on the next projects." The faces staring at her were a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and barely disguised hostility. Luna recognized some of them from the night of the delivery, including Carlos, the blonde guy who had mocked her. "So you're our new senior consultant," said a woman with graying hair and heavy-framed glasses. Fernanda Almeida, PhD in computer science from Stanford, 15 years of experience in distributed systems. The introduction sounded like a challenge. Luna felt the blood rush to her face but forced a smile. "Nice to meet you, Dr. Almeida. I'm Luna Vega." "We know who you are," Carlos interjected. "The delivery driver who became a consultant overnight. Must be an interesting story." The sarcasm in his voice was palpable. Luna looked around the table and realized she was facing not only professional skepticism, but also something deeper, the resentment of highly qualified people who saw her hiring as an insult to their own credentials. "Well," said Marcus, seemingly oblivious to the tension, "I'll let you get to know each other better. Luna, I'll see you in my office in an hour to discuss the next project." When Marcus left, the atmosphere became even more tense. Fernanda leaned forward, studying Luna with piercing eyes. "I'll be direct with you, Luna. We don't know how you managed to impress Marcus, but things work differently here. It's not enough to have an occasional idea. You need to prove your technical competence consistently. And frankly, looking at your resume," she paused, flipping through a copy of Luna's documents. "Well, there's not much to look at, is there?" Luna felt like she had been slapped. "I know my formal experience is limited, but..." "Limited?" Carlos laughed. "You have a technical course from a community college and are in the 3rd year of night classes. Most of us have master's or doctoral degrees from the best universities in the country. Some did postgraduate studies abroad." "Look," said another engineer, a young man with a neatly trimmed beard, "nothing against you personally, but this is a highly technical environment. It's not just about having ideas. It's about implementing complex solutions, understanding enterprise system architectures, working with cutting-edge technologies, and knowing how to work in a team," Fernanda added. This is no place for little stars who think they can solve everything on their own. Luna wanted to defend herself, but the words seemed to have evaporated from her throat. Everything they were saying was true. She really didn't have their academic background. She hadn't studied at the best universities, didn't have a master's or doctorate. She was just a girl from East San Jose who happened to have a good intuition at a lucky moment. The meeting ended with Luna being practically ignored as the team discussed technical aspects of ongoing projects, using terminology and concepts that she knew theoretically but had never applied on a large scale. When she arrived at Marcus's office an hour later, Luna was visibly shaken. "How was the first contact with the team?" he asked, without looking up from the documents he was reviewing. "It was enlightening," Luna replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Marcus finally looked at her and noticed her expression. "Problems?" Luna hesitated. Telling about the team's hostility would seem like complaining, something a senior consultant shouldn't do, but hiding it didn't seem right either. "They're right, Marcus. I don't have the qualifications they have. I didn't study at the best universities. I don't have postgraduate degrees. I don't have years of experience in big projects." "And you think that matters?" "Yes, it does. They see me as an intruder, as someone who doesn't deserve to be there. And maybe they're right." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. "Luna, are you doubting yourself because of what other people think?" "I'm doubting myself because maybe I was too naive. Maybe an occasional idea isn't enough to justify being here." "An occasional idea that saved $15 billion. It was luck. It was genius." Luna shook her head. "You don't understand. They know things I can't even imagine exist. When they talk about enterprise architectures, about development paradigms I've never heard of, I feel like a child playing grown-up." Marcus was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had a tone that Luna hadn't heard before, almost paternal. "You know what the problem is with diplomas and postgraduate degrees, Luna? They teach you to think inside very well-defined boxes. They teach the rules, the patterns, the best practices, and that's important, necessary. But sometimes to solve really difficult problems, you need someone who doesn't know that certain things are impossible." Luna didn't answer. "I'm going to give you 2 weeks to prove to yourself, not to me, not to them, that you belong in this place. If after 2 weeks you still think you can't do it, I'll understand if you want to leave. 2 weeks to prove that she wasn't just a lucky delivery driver. 2 weeks to show that she deserved to be there." Luna left Marcus's office feeling the weight of a mountain on her shoulders, questioning for the first time if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Digitid, the first 10 days were a silent hell. Luna arrived at the office at 7 a.m. and left at 11 p.m., trying to absorb everything she could about the projects in progress. She spent hours studying technical documentation, watching online tutorials, and trying to understand the complexities of the systems that TechVault developed. But the more she studied, the more she felt lost in an ocean of knowledge that seemed infinite. The team didn't make things easier. In meetings, they spoke rapidly about advanced concepts, using acronyms and technical terms as if they were a secret language. When Luna asked for clarification, she received barely disguised impatient glances and condescending explanations that made her feel even smaller. "Don't worry, Luna," said Carlos after a particularly difficult meeting on blockchain architecture. "These things take years to master. Maybe you should start with something more basic." On Friday night, Luna was alone in the office, hunched over her laptop, when she realized she wasn't really alone. A light was still on in the room at the end of the hallway, an area she rarely saw busy during the day. Curious, she walked there and found a man of about 60 years, graying hair and bifocals, working on 3 monitors simultaneously. He was wearing a faded Iron Maiden t-shirt and torn Converse sneakers. He definitely didn't fit the TechVault visual standard. "Sorry," said Luna. "I didn't know anyone was here." The man looked up and smiled. "You must be the famous Luna Vega. I'm Antonio Ribeiro, But everyone calls me Tony, Luna frowned. She didn't remember seeing that name on any company org chart. Do I work here? She asked, feeling a little foolish for asking. Tony laughed, a warm, genuine laugh. Officially? No? Unofficially? For 15 years, I'm what you youngsters call a freelancer, but back in my day we just said troubleshooter. He gestured for Luna to sit in the chair next to him. Marcus calls me when he has problems that the fancy folks can't solve. You know how it is. Sometimes you need someone who learned programming, tinkering with broken computers at the library. Luna felt an immediate connection. You don't have any academic training? Academic training? Tony almost choked with laughter. Honey, I started programming when there wasn't even a computer science degree in the US. I learned everything the hard way, one bug at a time. Nowadays, everyone wants a diploma hanging on the wall, but they forget that programming is craftsmanship. You learn by doing, messing up, trying again. Luna felt something stir in her chest, a relief she hadn't experienced in days. Can I tell you a secret? Tony continued, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Half the PhDs upstairs can't solve a simple logic problem because they spent too much time studying theory and not enough time getting their hands dirty with real code. But they know so much, Luna murmured. They know how to memorize books, that's what. But knowing how to memorize isn't the same as knowing how to think. Tony turned to her completely. Tell me, what's bothering you so much? Luna poured out everything. The insecurity, the feeling of not belonging, the pressure to prove her worth in 2 weeks. Tony listened in silence, nodding occasionally. You know what your problem is, Luna, he said when she finished. You're trying to be like them, when you should be being yourself. What do you mean? You solved that protocol problem because you looked at it with fresh eyes, without prejudice about how things should be done. Now you're trying to think how they think, use the tools they use, follow the methods they follow. Of course, it's not going to work. Tony got up and went to a whiteboard on the wall, grabbing a marker. Let me show you something. I'm going to tell you about TechVault's most important project, one that even the main team doesn't know exists. He began to draw a complex diagram on the board. Marcus is secretly developing an artificial intelligence system that will revolutionize customer service at Bank of America. The problem is that none of the conventional approaches are working. The system needs to understand not only what the customer is saying, but the cultural context, the regional nuances, the emotional subtleties. Luna approached the board, studying the diagram. It's a natural language processing problem. Exactly, but it's not just that. The system needs to be able to learn from each interaction, adapt to different accents, understand slang, perceive when someone is nervous or confused. Tony paused. You know who would be perfect to solve this problem? Who? Someone who grew up talking to people from all over the country. Someone who knows how to talk to an executive in Palo Alto and a retiree in the suburbs. Someone who understands the subtle differences in how people communicate when they're stressed, in a hurry, or worried about money. Luna felt her heart race. She knew exactly what Tony was talking about. During her years as a delivery driver, she had developed an almost intuitive ability to read people, knowing when someone was having a bad day, when they needed an extra smile, when it was better to be quick and efficient, or when she could be warmer and more conversational. But I don't know anything about AI. You don't need to know. You know about people. And that's the knowledge that's hardest to teach a machine. Tony sat down again. Marcus has been racking his brain for months with this project. The main team has already tried all the conventional technical approaches. What they don't realize is that it's not a technical problem. It's a human problem. Luna looked at the diagram again, and for the first time in 2 weeks, she felt that familiar spark of understanding beginning to glow. The system isn't understanding people because it was programmed by people who never really needed to listen, she murmured. Now you're thinking, said Tony, smiling. The question is, Are you going to let them convince you that you're not good enough, or are you going to show them that you see things they don't even know exist? For the first time since starting work at TechVault, Luna felt like herself again, not like a badly made imitation of a PhD in computer science, but like Luna Vega, the girl who knew how to read people, who understood the nuances of human communication, who could see simplicity where others saw only complexity. "Tony," she said, "can I ask you a favor?" "Sure. Teach me everything you know about this AI project." Tony's smile was luminous. "Oh, Bunny, for that we're going to need a lot of coffee and a few sleepless nights. Are you up for it?" Luna smiled back, feeling more determined than she had felt in weeks. "I'm up for it." Luna spent the next 3 days working with Tony until late at night, diving into Marcus's secret AI project. For the first time since arriving at TechVault, she felt like she was really contributing something valuable. Her ideas about human communication patterns were turning into functional algorithms, and the system was starting to respond in a more natural and empathetic way. On Monday morning, she was excited to share the progress with Marcus. She arrived at the office earlier than usual and went straight to his office, finding the door ajar. "Marcus, I need to show you something amazing that I developed with Tony about the AI project for banks," Luna began, pushing the door open. She stopped abruptly when she saw that Marcus wasn't alone. Fernanda and Carlos were sitting at the meeting table, and everyone turned to her with expressions ranging from surprise to irritation. "Luna," said Marcus, his voice strangely formal, "can you give us a minute?" "Sure, sorry to interrupt," she murmured, quickly leaving, but not before hearing Fernanda say, "That's exactly what we were talking about, Marcus." Luna stepped away from the door, but couldn't avoid hearing fragments of the conversation that continued. "Not working. The whole team is uncomfortable. Matter of credibility. Maybe it's better to rethink this decision." Luna's heart leaped. They were talking about her, clearly trying to convince Marcus that he had made a mistake in hiring her. 20 minutes later, Marcus opened the door of the office and gestured for her to come in. Fernanda and Carlos left without looking at her, but Luna could feel the tension in the air. "Sit down," said Marcus, and there was something different in his tone, a coldness she had never noticed before. "Marcus, about the AI project," Luna tried. "We need to talk about something else first." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her with a look that made her feel like a child being scolded. "The team came to see me this morning." Luna swallowed hard. "They're concerned about the team dynamics. They feel your presence is creating an unproductive environment." "Unproductive? But I've been working day and night. I have ideas that could revolutionize—" "Luna," Marcus raised his hand, interrupting her. "It's not about your effort. It's about integration. Team leadership is a complex science. When you introduce a disruptive element into a group that has been working together for years—" "Disruptive element." The words hurt more than a slap. "They complained that I don't integrate," Luna asked, her voice coming out higher than she intended. "They complained that they can't work effectively with someone who—" Marcus hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Someone who doesn't speak the same technical language, who doesn't have the same background, who asks very basic questions in advanced meetings." Each word was like a stone being thrown at her chest. Luna felt tears forming in her eyes, but struggled to contain them. "And you agree with them?" she asked. Marcus was silent for a long moment, a silence that was more eloquent than any answer. "I think," he said finally, "that maybe we need to rethink your position here." Luna felt the world collapse around her. "You're firing me?" "I'm not firing you. I'm suggesting that maybe you should consider a more gradual transition. Go back to college, finish your studies, gain more practical experience. TechVault could finance your education, offer internships. You want me to go back to being an intern?" Luna didn't ask a question. It was a bitter realization. "I want you to succeed in the long term, and sometimes that means taking a step back to take several steps forward later," Luna stood up abruptly, her legs trembling. "I understand. Thank you for the opportunity." She left the room trying to maintain her dignity, but when she got to the women's restroom, she couldn't hold back the tears anymore. She locked herself in a stall and cried as she hadn't cried since her father's death. Everything had been a terrible mistake, an illusion. She had really believed that she could belong to that world, that her mind was worth something in that universe of geniuses with diplomas hanging on the wall. But the truth was cruel and simple. She was Luna Vega from East San Jose, daughter of a carpenter and a seamstress, and no matter how hard she tried, she would never be good enough for that place. When she finally left the bathroom, with red eyes but determined to maintain her composure, she found Tony in the hallway. "Luna, what happened?" She told him everything, the words tumbling out between stifled sobs. Tony listened in silence, his face growing more and more serious. "Those sons of a..." he muttered, controlling himself. "Luna, you can't give up now." "Why not, Tony? They're right. I don't belong in this place. I don't have the training. I don't have the experience. I don't speak their language." "You have something they'll never have," Tony said firmly. "You have genuine intuition. You see solutions where they only see problems. That's not enough." "Not enough for what? To impress a bunch of frustrated PhDs who feel threatened by you?" Luna shook her head. "It's no use, Tony. Marcus has already decided. He wants me to go back to college, to be an intern, to gain experience. Translating, he wants me to get out of the way of the real professionals. And you're going to do that? You're going to let them win? It's not a matter of winning or losing. It's a matter of reality. Maybe they're right. Maybe I was too arrogant, dreamed too big." Luna stopped talking when she saw Tony's expression, a mixture of sadness and disappointment that hit her like a punch in the stomach. "You know what makes me saddest about all this?" he said quietly. "It's not the fact that they don't recognize your talent. It's the fact that you've started to believe them." Tony's words echoed in Luna's mind as she gathered her personal belongings from the desk she had occupied for only 2 weeks. The apartment in Palo Alto, the salary of $40,000, the feeling of doing something important, all of that was disappearing like smoke. She took the bus back to East San Jose, looking out the window at the familiar streets that now seemed like a prison from which she had tried to escape, but to which she was inevitably condemned to return. When she got home, she found Esperanza sewing in the living room, as always. "Mija, why are you home so early?" Luna couldn't answer. She simply threw herself into her mother's arms and cried like a child again, feeling that she had not only lost a job, but also a part of herself that had dared to dream of something bigger. Luna spent 3 entire days lying in bed, alternating between restless sleep and moments of empty contemplation of the peeling ceiling of the room. Esperanza tried to cheer her up with her favorite foods and loving conversations, but Luna responded only with monosyllables and forced smiles. On the morning of the 4th day, the phone rang. It was the manager from Food Express, asking if she wanted to go back to work as a delivery driver. "Sure," Luna replied, her voice without emotion. "I can start today." At 2 p.m., she was again on the red scooter, driving through the streets of Silicon Valley with the insulated backpack on her back. It was as if the last few weeks had been a strange dream, or maybe a nightmare. Now she was back to reality, to her real life, to the place she always knew was hers. But something had changed. While waiting in a line of delivery drivers at the door of a restaurant downtown, Luna overheard a conversation that made her perk up her ears. "Man, did you see the news about TechVault?" said an older delivery driver. "Looks like they're having serious problems again. Their system crashed yesterday and was down for 6 hours. "Seriously?" replied another. "Isn't that Marcus Chen's company? That billionaire?" "Yeah, it is. They say it was millions in losses. People on Twitter are joking, saying that even the best engineers in the country can't keep the system running." Luna felt something stir in her chest. Unable to control herself, she grabbed her phone and searched for news about TechVault. There it was. TechVault system experiences new critical failure. Company loses $1.6 million in 6 hours of downtime. She read the entire article, and the more she read, the more she recognized the symptoms of the problem. It was exactly the same type of protocol conflict she had identified weeks ago, but in a different layer of the system. That night, after finishing her deliveries, Luna couldn't stop thinking about TechVault's problem. She sat at the desk made of milk crates and began drawing diagrams in an old notebook, trying to visualize where the new bottleneck might be. "Mija, you should forget that company," said Esperanza, sitting down next to her. "They didn't know how to value you." "It's not about them, Mom. It's about the problem. I can see where the error is, and it's so obvious." Luna paused, looking at her own drawings. "They're making the same mistake again, only in a different place." "And why does that matter to you?" Luna was silent for a moment, reflecting on the question. Why did it matter? Marcus had practically fired her. The team had rejected her. She should be angry, hurt, wanting to see them fail. But the truth was more complicated. She cared because she saw a problem she could solve, and that was simply her nature. Since she was a child, she couldn't see something broken without trying to fix it. "I don't know, Mom. Maybe because I know I can help." The next morning, Luna was making a delivery downtown when she saw Tony coming out of a coffee shop on the corner. Their eyes met through the glass of the diner, and he waved for her to come closer. "Luna," he said with a genuine smile. "How are you?" "I'm fine," she lied. "I went back to working as a delivery driver." Tony's smile disappeared. "What a damn waste." "Tony, I saw the news about TechVault's system crashing again." "Yeah. And you know what's most frustrating? It's exactly the type of problem you'd solve in 10 minutes. Tony shook his head. "Marcus is desperate. The whole team's been working 24 hours a day for a week, and nothing. The board of directors is putting pressure on him. The investors are nervous. It's the same protocol problem as before," said Luna. "Only now it's happening between the payment system and the security module. They're trying complex solutions for a simple problem." Tony looked at her intently. "Are you sure?" "I am. I can even draw where the bottleneck is." Luna grabbed a pen and began sketching on the paper napkin. "Look, the data flow is being interrupted here, at this validation point. They probably implemented an extra layer of security that's conflicting with the original protocol." Tony studied the drawing with growing admiration. "My God, Luna, you're right. I bet you're right." "It doesn't matter if I'm right or not. They've already made it clear that they don't want my help. What if I told you that Marcus is desperate enough to listen to any suggestion?" Luna shook her head. "He humiliated me, Tony. In front of the whole team, he treated me like I was a child playing programmer. He made a mistake. A big mistake, but now he's paying for it. And why should I help someone who didn't believe in me?" Tony leaned forward, holding her hands. "Because you're not like them, Luna. You don't solve problems for ego, for recognition, or to prove you're better than others. You solve problems because you need to solve them. It's who you are." Tony's words touched something deep in Luna. It was true. Since she was a child, she fixed things not to be praised, but because she couldn't stand to see something malfunctioning when she knew how to fix it. "Besides," Tony continued, "it's not about helping Marcus. It's about proving to yourself that it wasn't arrogance or luck. It's about showing that you have a real gift, an intuition that's worth more than any diploma." Luna looked at the drawing on the napkin, then at Tony, then at the busy street where her scooter awaited her for another day of deliveries. "If I do this," she said slowly, "it won't be as a senior consultant or as a humble employee asking for a second chance. It'll be as Luna Vega, and they're going to have to listen to me on my terms." Tony smiled. "Now you're talking." Luna stood up, putting the napkin in her pocket. For the first time in days, she felt that familiar spark of determination igniting in her chest. She wasn't going back crawling to Marcus Chen. She wasn't going to beg for an opportunity. She was going to do what she had always done, solve the problem, and this time she was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who had found the solution. Luna parked her scooter in front of the Tech Vault building at 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday. This time, there was no insulated backpack on her back, just a simple folder with her drawings and notes. She knew that Marcus would still be there. The lights on the 45th floor were on, and according to Tony, the team hadn't left the office for 3 days. The night doorman recognized her. "Hi, Luna. Back to making deliveries here?" "Not exactly," she replied, taking a deep breath. "I need to talk to the people upstairs." In the elevator, Luna felt a strange mixture of nervousness and absolute calm. She was no longer trying to prove that she deserved to be there. She was no longer trying to fit into their world. She was simply being herself, the girl who saw solutions where others saw only impossible problems. The doors opened, revealing a scene of organized chaos. The team was scattered around the office, some sleeping on the sofas, others typing frantically. Piles of energy drink cans and empty pizza boxes were stacked on the tables. Marcus was in the meeting room, gesturing intensely while discussing something with Fernanda and Carlos. Luna walked directly to the meeting room and knocked on the glass door. Marcus looked up, and his expression went through various emotions in seconds. Surprise, embarrassment, curiosity. He opened the door slowly. "Luna, what are you doing here?" "I came to solve your problem," she said bluntly. Fernanda laughed sarcastically. "Really? The delivery driver came back to save us again?" Luna looked directly at Fernanda without blinking. "Dr. Fernanda, with all due respect to your PhD in computer science from Stanford, you've been trying for a week to solve something that I can identify in 5 minutes." Luna's firm and confident tone made the entire office fall silent. Even the programmers who were working stopped to pay attention. Marcus hesitated for a moment, then gestured for her to enter the room. "All right, 5 minutes." Luna opened her folder and placed the drawings on the table. "The problem isn't where you think it is. You implemented a new encryption layer in the payment module last week, right?" Carlos frowned. "How do you know that?" "Because it's obvious looking at the symptoms. The system works perfectly during low demand, but crashes when the volume of transactions increases. That means there's a processing bottleneck at some validation point." Luna pointed to her diagram. "The new security layer is trying to validate each transaction individually using the old protocol, but the payment module is sending the data in batches. It's like trying to push 100 people through a door that only allows individual entry." Marcus leaned over the drawing, studying it intently. "Go on." "The solution is to implement a batch validator that processes multiple transactions simultaneously, maintaining the same level of security. You don't even need to rewrite the existing code. You just need to create an interface that translates the data format." The silence in the room was deafening. Luna could see on the faces around her that her analysis had touched on something fundamental. "That actually makes sense," Carlos murmured, clearly reluctant to admit it. "More than sense," said Marcus, his voice charged with an emotion that Luna couldn't identify. "It's exactly that. How didn't we see something so obvious?" "Because sometimes when you know the rules too well, you forget to question whether they make sense," Luna replied. "You're experts at doing things the right way. I only know how to make things work." Fernanda, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "How long would it take to implement this solution? With your team?" "About 2 hours at most," said Luna. Marcus looked at her with an expression that mixed admiration and something very close to regret. "Luna, I made a terrible mistake." "You did," she agreed, without softening the words. "You chose the comfort of your team over what was best for the company. You chose diplomas over results. And now, what do you want? Your job back?" Luna shook her head. "I don't want my job back, Marcus. Not the way it was before." She stood up, gathering her papers. "But I have a different proposal." Marcus waited, clearly anxious. "I want to be a partner, Not an employee, not a consultant, a partner. I want 5% of the company and complete autonomy to form my own team. A team that hires based on real talent, not diplomas hanging on the wall. The request was audacious, and Luna knew it. But she also knew that she held all the cards at that moment. Marcus was silent for a long moment, then smiled, the first genuine smile that Luna had seen from him since the first night they met. 5% is too much, he said. For someone who just saved your company for the second time, it's not enough. 3%. 4% and participation in strategic decisions. Marcus held out his hand. Deal. When Luna shook his hand, she felt that she wasn't just closing a business deal. She was finally being recognized for what she really was. Not a delivery driver who got lucky, not a student without credentials, but Luna Vega, problem solver, technological visionary. A woman who knew that intelligence comes in many different forms. 6 months later, Luna's team had become legendary in the American tech market. She hired talented programmers regardless of where they had studied. Some came from elite universities, others were self-taught like Tony. Some had stories similar to hers. What mattered was the ability to think differently, to see solutions where others saw only obstacles. The banking AI project that she developed with her team revolutionized customer service in the US, implementing for the first time a system that really understood the cultural and emotional nuances of American communication. And on the wall of her office, which was now on the same floor as Marcus's, Luna kept a photo. She and her mother on the day of her computer science graduation, which she finished studying part-time while revolutionizing one of the biggest tech companies in the country. Because Luna Vega had learned that sometimes the longest path is exactly the right path, and that the most impossible dreams are only those that haven't yet found the right person to make them a reality. Dear listeners, we hope that Luna Vega's inspiring journey has deeply touched your hearts. To continue this emotional journey through stories that celebrate the strength of the human spirit, we have prepared a special collection with equally transformative narratives. You can find our exclusive playlist by clicking here. If Luna's story inspired you as much as it inspires us, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Every interaction helps us to bring these stories of overcoming to more people who need to believe in their own dreams. Every day we share new journeys that explore all the complexity and beauty of the human experience. Don't miss our upcoming content, and especially share with us in the comments, what was the moment of the story that moved you the most? We are looking forward to knowing your reflections.